NFL fans. Are you ready? This is the podcast on all things NFL. The fantasy football players you should sit, ones you should start, guest speakers, game recaps, pre-game predictions, plus live call-ins from viewers, and so much more. Welcome to NFL Talk Live with your hosts, Reading Ravens 1 and Alex, aka PurpleSwordfish.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to NFL Talk Live Podcast Week 13 edition. I'm your host, Reigning Ravens 1, being joined here by my co-host, Alex, a.k.a. PurpleSwordfish. Alex, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. How was yours?
You know, no complaints here. I had to work the whole thing, but, you know, that's a blessing in of itself. I unfortunately missed out on the turkey and all the fixings, but that's not what's important. It's about having family, of which I also did not have, but I did get to spend with my work family, so that was pretty cool. And to top it off, I got to watch 3 games, so you know I'm blessed on top of being blessed. You know, I hope. On behalf of me and my co-host, I hope that everybody who's currently watching, if you're watching or listening, hopefully you had a very pleasant Thanksgiving with you and yours. Man, what a slate of games we had in Week 12. Thursday night was a good one, but the earlier games in Thanksgiving Day, if you were awake for it, if the tryptophan didn't really hit your system yet and you were still awake watching the games, good on you, because there were a couple of them. 2 out of the 3 were really good games. The outlier being the Chargers and Cowboys game. I thought it was a stink fest for much of the game. Very one-sided affair. Chargers obviously putting up big numbers away. Chargers, one of those under-the-radar teams. Didn't do too well starting off, but here they go. They're making a resurgence, and look at them. They're just like my team. I don't know about your team, Alex, the Tampa Bay Bucks. I'm not sure, but just like my team, they are definitely in the hunt, as they say, for playoff positioning. So, speaking of Week 12, obviously there were some good games. I think you and I, Alex, we had pretty much the same exact picks for Week 12, right? As far as like the Thursday games.
Very well. Thursday games we were identical.
Identical Thursday games. I think what really threw me for a loop, and honestly, like, it's one of those fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, or something like that. I think it's the other way around. But these Bills, they fooled me now 5 times. Or not these Bills, sorry. The Kansas City Chiefs. They fooled me now 5 times in a row. I think I may be done with them. I don't know yet. I haven't taken a look at the Week 13 slate or who they play or anything like that. But the Chiefs, what a disappointment they are. What's your take on that? For them to start off 5-0 and now lose 5 straight.
I know they've had some struggles with the O-line, and their defense has really also struggled. I think they maybe overperformed those first 5 games in terms of defense. And the offense, people seem to have figured out their offense. Kareem Hunt has no room to move, no room to run. Alex Smith looks very human again. Through 6 weeks, we were talking about him as an MVP candidate. Now we wouldn't even have him in the conversation. So I think that the game tape has not been kind to the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of teams have figured out their offense, keyed in on Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt, who I think are really their only 2 big playmakers, the 2 big difference makers on offense. And when you shut those guys down, I mean, they put up 10 points a week, and it doesn't take much to beat a football team in the NFL that puts up 10 points a week.
Nope. Absolutely right. Absolutely right about that. Anything else, looking at the schedule? I mean, obviously the games we predicted wrong, but like anything really stand out at you from Week 12?
I mean, Saints, you know, I really thought they were going to win that game against the Rams. The Rams really showed me something. I was kind of concerned about the Rams falling back to earth after their loss in Week 11, but they came back very strong, had a very good game against a incredibly solid team on an 8-win streak. So the Rams really shocked me. And then I do have to say the Jaguars, I know I shouldn't be too shocked, but my goodness, Blake Bortles really holding that team back. And they certainly should have won that game on the road. I know that's a tough road game to win, but man, they're just getting nothing from their quarterback right now. And it just continues to shock me, even though I'm not expecting much from Bortles.
Yeah. My surprise game of this week, believe it or not, was not even the Monday night game. I know that's what people want to say. Oh, hey, how about them Ravens, though? Ravens played a terrible game. The fact that we won that game, that's a blessing in disguise. We don't deserve to win that game. We had terrible play on offense. We'll get into that in Week 13. But like I said, my surprise game of this week, of Week 12, was the Packers and Steelers Sunday night game. Who in the world saw the Packers putting up that much of a battle? I think at one point they were up 14-0. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, Brett Hundley looking like, like an engineer in the pocket. He's got the movement, he's got the legs, but he didn't have to use any of that. He stayed cool, calm, and collected, poised in the pocket, just delivering absolute. Oh, they call what's it called? They call it a frozen rope almost of a pass to his receivers. Beautiful, beautiful passes. And obviously, if you watch the game, it came down to one play, and of course, nobody should be surprised. The one play was Antonio Brown making this absolute freakish sideline grab. Maybe got like a toenail in bounds, and that's it. It was an easy kick for that kicker, and boom, they won. That game had the makings of being an excellent overtime game, but in fact, we got an excellent four-quarter game. Outside of that, though, I mean, some of these games could have gone either way. I feel pretty good about my picks. I went 11-5. Alex went 12-4, which means that I am currently still, in the overall scheme of things, I'm about 4 or 5 games behind Alex. And to remind you, if at the end of this year, regular season that is, if at the end of the regular season, we're going to tally up all our wins and losses, if in fact Alex, that guy right there, if he has more corrected picks than me, you're going to see me wear Buccaneers gear. I'm going to wear Buccaneers hat. I may even have a Buccaneers banner in the background. I'm just saying. I'm a man of my word. When I make a gentleman's bet, I own up to it. And it's starting to look that way, unfortunately, for me. So, Alex, I need to right the ship, in other words. What better way to do that than to get into Week 13 picks? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Kicking it off. Oh, only one Thursday game tomorrow? Come on, man. After seeing 3 last week, this is bad, man. All right, we got Washington, 5-6 Washington Redskins, playing against the Dallas Cowboys, who are also 5-6. Cowboys playing at home, of course, because God forbid they televise a Cowboys game where they're not playing at home. Anyway, that's beside the point.
It's America's team.
It's America's team, yeah.
Apparently, even though the Packers are more popular, I think, last time I checked.
Hashtag not my team, right?
Yeah.
Is that what all the millennials are saying? Anyway, Dallas has been looking absolutely terrible without Ezekiel Elliott. They have now lost all 3 games. In every game that Ezekiel Elliott hasn't played in so far, they have lost. And to top that, in those 3 games that they lost, they haven't scored over 10 points. You can't win if you don't score. Defense can only do so much. And speaking of that, defense in Dallas, to use Great One Divorce commentary, they look like a bunch of dead bodies. They don't move at all, and you can pass all over them. Defense for Dallas allowing roughly 30 points per game at the current moment. Yes, Washington has lost the last 3 battles with Dallas, but this Washington team this year, they got a little bit of fight in them. It's a small dog with a big fight in it. That's what Washington is. I think Kirk Cousins, I said the same thing about Brett Hundley being able to engineer an offense. I think Kirk Cousins is able to do that. He's going to be engineering this offense, putting up big-time yards on his defense. And like I said, Cowboys offense can't put up any points. I'm going to take Washington to win this one as away underdogs, I believe, right? You have the lines. Alex is the line guy, so if I ever need anything, I'll ask I'll ask Alex for the line. But I think they're the underdogs in this one. I'm going to go ahead and take the Redskins.
Yeah, so I really have a lot of concern about the Cowboys as a team right now without Ezekiel Elliott. in a weird way, you could make the argument that Ezekiel Elliott should be MVP just based on the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have practically crumbled without him. They looked really bad against the Chargers. The Chargers are not an overwhelming defense at all, but the Chargers went in there and really, played with authority. Here we have two teams where, let's just be honest, whoever wins or whoever loses this game, they're pretty much out of the playoffs. Like, I think this is the nail in the coffin for whichever team loses here. Redskins are obviously playing a little bit better. I'm going with the Redskins in this one. They are 1.5-point favorites. I would take them to cover that spread. I just don't see the Cowboys. I know they're at home. They're just asking way too much from Dak Prescott. That defense was already challenged from week one as a defense. They're not going to play good enough defense to allow Dak Prescott to just play game manager anymore. And we all saw what the San Diego Chargers did to him when he had to do too much, when too much was put on his shoulders. So I'm taking the Redskins here. If you're looking for a fantasy football play, I'd tell you Kirk Cousins, Perrine as a running back. Redskins D might be sneaky good, probably available in a lot of leagues. Might get some turnovers from Dak Prescott. I'd avoid anybody on the Cowboys other than Alfred Morris. I think Alfred Morris will probably get enough yards to make him a solid flex play. And then obviously if you had like Des Bryant, you're going to play him anyway, right? But maybe Jason Witten in a PPR league. But beyond that, I'd stay away from the Cowboys. But yeah, Redskins taking this one, covering the spread.
Okay. You mentioned Perrine. That's actually a great pickup, under the radar type pick, because he's currently available in 80% of leagues right now. So if you want him, he's a pretty good streaming option for you. Next game is the 3-8 Indianapolis Colts taking on the 7-4 Jaguars. Jaguars hosting this Sunday game. Jacksonville, their offense lately has been looking a little bit lazy, a little bit lethargic, not really getting much. They're not giving it to Fournette as much as they need to, in my opinion. They're a very pass-heavy team right now. But I think that's going to change this week against Indianapolis and their shoddy defense. Indianapolis may have been a better defense, but they're still got points of being vulnerable out there. I don't trust that Indianapolis defense. They're good one game, and another game they just lay a complete egg. In their first meeting, this is actually their second meeting of this year, this Jacksonville and Indianapolis meeting. In their first meeting this year, Jacksonville, if you remember, completely shut out the Colts. And I think you're going to see more of that in this one. I think not much is going to change from their first meeting to this one. I think it's going to be another dominant defensive performance by the Jaguars. And you know what? Like I said, they're going to get that offense back on the tracks. I'm taking the Jaguars to win this one. Leonard Fournette, if you have him, he's going to have a big day against this Colts defense because they've been on a decline lately, in my opinion.
Well, you can't fall off the floor, Double R. So, I mean, the Colts defense has been. Statistically, the Colts defense has been the worst all year. They're still the worst. I would anticipate that to continue, and that kind of goes hand in hand with their offense, which is not that good. I know everybody's really having a Jacoby Brissett love fest this year, and yes, he does have potential, but he is not an elite quarterback. He can't put this team on his back like maybe an Andrew Luck or Aaron Rodgers would be able to. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this game other than stay away from Blake Bortles at all costs. If they can keep the ball in Leonard Fournette's hands, as Double R says, I think that's good. If the Colts can come out and do like Arizona did last week and shut Leonard Fournette down, he only had, I think, 25 yards last week.
The entire game.
But it was on a good amount of carries.
It was.
And what happened is they got the Jaguars behind, and that puts the pressure on who? Blake Bortles. And what happens? Blake Bortles does Blake Bortles stuff, which is never good stuff. And I swear to God, there's no way he's his age that he claims he is. He looks like a older brother of Pete Sampras. I firmly believe he's like in his mid-40s. There's no way this guy is legitimately as old as he says he is. If they have to rely on Blake Bortles at all, it's not going to be pretty. I still have the Jaguars winning this one, but take the points. And here's why I would tell you to do that. When they first faced the Colts, Brissett was still figuring it out. He's gotten a little bit better as the year has gone on. So I think this one will be close, mainly because of Bortles. So take the points, but the Jaguars win this one. And play Fournette if you have them, but everybody else just don't play them.
Okay, there you go. Alrighty. Next up, we've talked plenty about the Chiefs in the beginning of this podcast, but we got the 6-5 Chiefs taking on the 4-7 Jets. Jets are hosting this matchup. To me, the Jets, yeah, they're 4-7, and yeah, the Chiefs are 6-5. But to me, the Kansas City might as well just be 4-7. To me, like, I don't pay attention to records on this one at all. Yeah, the Chiefs had a couple more wins, but the last 5 games for them have been absolutely atrocious. Their offense has become a huge problem in Kansas City. Okay, and in turn is putting a lot of pressure on Kansas City's defense, which is like on the field for like what 40 minutes a game almost. It's something ridiculous like that. And you know what? Look, 2 weeks ago, the Giants upset them. The Giants of all teams. The Giants upset the Chiefs. Yeah, the Jets are probably a better team than the Giants. So by reason of deduction, you would say, okay, well, the Jets are going to win this one. I still think, despite all that, I think that the Chiefs still have some personnel advantages. And despite them playing so bad as of late, I think with those personnel advantages that they have, they can compete with the Jets. And I know I said I'm done picking the Chiefs. They broke my heart the last 5 weeks. But we're going to go for a 6th. I'm going to give them a chance of redemption here. I'm going to give them the win. And I think, much like the Jaguars' offense, the Chiefs' offense needs to gain some traction at this time of the year. You guys know, Week 13, we're heading. We got what 4 more weeks left in the regular season, and then boom, we are into the postseason. They have to ramp it up now. This was a team that earlier on the season, when they had even 3 straight wins, we're like, okay, these guys got it. They're going to have the first round bye and everything. Not the case. Not the case, and actually playoffs isn't promised for them at this point either. So, but the Chiefs, I think they need to gain some traction. I'm trusting them one more week. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I am officially canceling my Kansas City Chiefs / Andy Reid fan club subscription. Sending the postcard this afternoon for that one. I just can't believe in this team anymore. I don't know what to think of them. I still can't. I've done a lot of research on it. I still can't figure out what happened. My best guess is, as I said earlier, people have been studying tape, figuring out that offense. The defense was never that good to begin with. And Andy Reid, in typical Andy Reid fashion, said, we need to get the offense going. And I'm like, bro, you call the plays, right? Like right. That's partially you. Like, you can't sit there and say, hey, that's the problem. Well, that's you too. So I just don't know what to think about the Chiefs. At the same time, the Jets, you guys all know I've never been high on the Jets this year. So I really, I went into this show. I don't even know who to pick. So I believe this calls for the PurpleSwordfish coin flip game of the week.
Oh boy.
So here we go. I'm going to go heads.
Are you actually
Chiefs.
Flipping a coin?
Yeah, because I don't know who to pick here. And by the way, Vegas has the Chiefs as a 2.5-point favorite. Take the points. Let's do this. Okay, we got heads, so we're going Chiefs.
All right, you're going with the
that's
Chiefs.
That's my reasoning. I don't know. It's a 50-50.
Hey, it works for me. Like I said, it is a 50-50 game. Don't pay attention to records here. Kansas City, 6-5, couple more wins than the Jets, but they've been stinking it up the last 5 weeks. By the way, for those of you guys wondering on the podcast who are listening to the audio version, we just got rated by fellow YouTube gaming streamer, It's Me, Jennifer. Thank you so much for that. You are now going to be on the audio version of this podcast after this isn't dropped on SoundCloud. Appreciate you. Next game is the 7-4 Tennessee Titans, a team that my team had the unfortunate pleasure of playing. My Ravens had to play them, and we lost to them. Facing off against the 4-7 Houston Texans, a team that we beat last week, actually, a couple days ago on Monday Night Football. Houston, for all intents and purposes, they are done in terms of playoff hopes or getting to the playoffs. But you guys know this is a time of the year where just because a team is eliminated from playoffs doesn't mean that the dog in them stops barking. In fact, Houston right now, despite them being out of the playoffs, they would absolutely love. If there's one thing they would love right here is to knock off their division rival out of playoffs as well. They're going to be playing a tough game, and I think they have a good chance of winning this one. However, the big problem is, as if you're a Texans, is you're playing another consecutive road game, and again, after a Monday Night Football loss, that's tough to overcome. Always constantly playing on the road. I'm going to say the Titans, slight edge. I don't know what the line is on this one, what the Vegas line is, but I'm going to give the slight edge to the Titans, being the fact that they're playing at home. And Marcus Mariota, I think he's going to turn it on in this game. It's not going to be a tough thing. The Ravens don't look at last week. Like, look at last week's score, right? Monday Night Football. The Ravens won 23-16. But don't look at that number because the Ravens, they don't have any offense. They don't have any offense. I guess the same thing could be said about the Titans. But they have a better offense than us, and the defense can create turnovers. I'm taking the Titans to win this one. And I think DeMarco Murray, a guy that they've been using a lot lately in the red zone. I thought they would use Henry a lot more, but they're using DeMarco Murray a lot. He is your end zone guy. Get him in there if he's in your starting lineup. I can't think of a more ill-advised thing to do than to not start him this week. So go with him and the Titans.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about the Titans either. They've been a very up and down team all year. Some weeks their offense is clicking, other weeks it's not. The defense seems to be pretty stable, and right. I think they're kind of a middle of the road team. Originally, I thought this team was going to go 8-8. I think they're really doing well here. This is a must win for them, though. I think that's really key because you have them tied with the Jaguars. They do hold that tiebreaker over the Jaguars for the division lead. They have to win this game because they have to be kicking off at 1 p.m. thinking the Jaguars are going to beat the Colts. I mean, that's how I would plan for this one. So I think the Titans will come through with this one, get the win. I agree with you. I think DeMarco Murray, not Hunter Henry. I'm sorry. I always get him.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry. I get the Henrys mixed up. But yeah, I think DeMarco Murray and Henry are both good plays in fantasy. DeMarco Murray showing signs of life. It looks like he's finally 100% again. I know he's had some struggles with some leg injuries earlier on in the year. Looked really good last week and was a very big part of that winning drive that they had to win at the last minute. The Texans, while they are playing well and they looked really good against the Ravens, I think that's more of a false positive. I think Tom Savage will continue to struggle to fill the shoes of Deshaun Watson. I think if Watson was playing this game, this would be game of the week potential. And I think that the Texans would have a much better chance here. But on the Texans, I would tell you, play Lamar Miller, DeAndre Hopkins, possibly the best receiver in football right now. Don't at me on that. I know you're going to disagree with me, but like Hopkins is doing a lot considering the quarterback he has to work with, and week in, week out is producing. But yeah, I got the Texans losing. So Titans win. I don't think they cover the 6.5 point spread though. So take the points.
Take the points. Okay, there we go. All right, next up we got the 5-6 Green Bay Packers hosting your team, Alex, the 4-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Green Bay, like we just said before we got into our Week 13 picks, they played one heck of a game against Pittsburgh, a team that, if you look at the Vegas, the playoff predictor machine, you could click it, and every time you click it, it'll say Pittsburgh Super Bowl, Pittsburgh Super Bowl. Like, a lot of these playoffs machines that are out there, they're giving Pittsburgh the heavy favor. So this team potentially played against a Super Bowl Pittsburgh Steelers team, and they did a darn good job without it. Without Aaron Rodgers, their general and leader. Brett Hundley looked absolutely impressive that night. I was so impressed with him, what I saw. We talked about the toughness of playing consecutive road games, which is exactly what Tampa Bay is doing this week. I know they announced today, I got my ESPN alert while I was at work today, that Jameis Winston may be back this Sunday to face off against the Packers. And I will go so far as to say that if he does come back and is playing and is inserted into that starting lineup, I think Packers will win. That'll only help the Packers because he's been away from the game for so long now. You can't fight off that rust playing in Green Bay on the frozen tundra. I don't care what anyone says. That defense is still that defense. I'm taking the Packers. I'm sorry, Alex. Sorry, man. I'm taking. I got to take the Packers in this one. I'm taking the Packers. Brent Hundley is going to have another big game. I think right now Tampa Bay gives up. I was looking in fantasy. They give up the third most amount of rushing or passing yards. Okay, that's what the defense gives up. So Brett Hundley's going to kill it this week. That's what I'm going with. Alex?
I think you're spot on with your analysis of the Packers. Hundley really showed me this week and very impressive against the Steelers. That's not a bad defense. It's one of the best defenses in the league. So for him to come out and have that showing was impressive. And I have to say, a lot of people on Twitter were saying, man, if Aaron Rodgers was playing this game, the Packers would have won. Yep. At the same time, I have to say, let's not discredit this young man here. How much better could he have possibly played as a quarterback? Let's keep that in mind. I mean, he played one of the best games of the week last week from the quarterback position. So big ups to Hundley. And I do like this Packers team. They're scrappy without Rodgers. They've overperformed without him. I cannot give their coaching staff and those players enough credit. Everybody thought they were dead in the water. But this week, Jameis Winston is returning for the Bucs. I think that's going to be a real big game changer for them. I know their defense really struggles, and they are on the road. But I do have the Buccaneers winning here. I do think they'll cover the 1.5-point spread as long as Winston plays. If Fitzpatrick plays, I think it's a coin flip. It's a 50-50 game. But if Winston plays, the Buccaneers will win because Winston needs this. He needs this going into the offseason because, as I said on Twitter earlier this week, next season and the rest of this season, he's got to prove he's worth franchise QB money because he's approaching what Blake Bortles is approaching this offseason, where he's going to either get extended or find himself a free agent. So I have the Bucs winning this one, covering the 2-point spread or 1.5-point spread. I tell you, play Mike Evans. I think Doug Martin is in line for a pretty good game. Might be a good flex play on the Packers. Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, both good plays. Hundley might be sneaky good. If he's available in your league, he's available in a lot of leagues. Both defenses, I'd stay away from both, but I got the Bucs.
Got the Bucs. All right, and there it is. Our first disagreement of Week 13 comes at the Bucs and Packers game. Next up, we've got the who's going to be watching this game? We got the 4-7 Miami Dolphins hosting the 3-8 Denver Broncos. I don't know if you guys saw that fight. I'm sure you did, unless you're living under a rock. I don't know if you saw that fight between Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree last week. For the second time, Aqib Talib stole a necklace from Crabtree. I'm pretty sure at this point Aqib Talib is holding an annual garage sale where he sells everything he's ever taken from Crabtree. And actually, perfect timing. He could run that garage sale this week and next week if he wants, because he's gone for the next couple weeks due to suspension. I believe they reduced Crabtree's suspension to only 1 week, though, because they, after a review of the fight, they listed him as not the initial aggressor, whatever that means. But so 2 games as it stands right now for Aqib Talib, and 1 game for for Michael Crabtree. This right here, man, the Denver Broncos, they're done, in my opinion. They're done. This is going to be a long road trip for a team that's not playing for anything right now. I'm picking Miami, not because they're a better team, but because they actually are playing for something. They are definitely very much in the hunt, and I got to go with the team that's still got a horse in the race, to say. I'm going with the Dolphins.
Yeah, right out of the gate, I'm going to tell you, if you have anybody in fantasy, don't play them in this game. It's too hard to predict. If you're desperate, maybe Jarvis Landry, but I'm staying away from this game altogether in fantasy. This is another one of those, in my opinion, 50-50 games. I do have to say the Broncos are in just complete disarray. I think it really does hurt them to not have Aqib Talib the rest, well, not really the rest of the season, but these next 2 games. It certainly doesn't help. And that secondary is already kind of banged up as it is. So Cutler's back with the Dolphins. Hooray. I don't think anybody's going to throw a parade for that. But anyway, I do have the Dolphins winning here just because of quarterback play. I think they'll get better quarterback play from Cutler than the Broncos will from Paxton Lynch or Trevor Siemian or Osweiler or whoever they're playing this week. And the Broncos D is really going to have a hard time covering up, Jarvis Landry and their run attack with the loss of Aqib Talib. So I got the Dolphins, and they're underdogs, so might be a good bet to take. I think they'll win this one.
All right, so he's taking the Dolphins as well. Next up, okay, let me preface this by saying, for those of you guys who tune into other stuff that I do on my channel, like playing, when I'm running my gaming streams, when I play Madden, and my opponent and I are selecting our teams, every once in a while, I want to say like maybe once every couple weeks, we run the toilet bowl game, where the object of the game is for me and my opponent to pick the 2 worst teams in the game and put them up against each other. Well, obviously Roger Goodell or whoever's setting up these NFL schedules been watching my streams, because they got the toilet bowl game here in Week 13. We got the 3-8 Chicago Bears hosting the 1-10 San Francisco 49ers. This is definitely my toilet bowl, whatever you want to call it, the dog game of the week. Could be Jimmy Garoppolo getting his first start for the 49ers. We saw what happened last week. They put him in garbage time, maybe 50 seconds left in the game. Only played a couple snaps, but still managed to score a touchdown. Jimmy Garoppolo, man, a lot of Bears fans respect him. The reason why is because he's actually a local guy. He hails from Eastern Illinois University. He went to school. He lived his life the whole time in Illinois. So a lot of Bears fans respect him. But that's not saying much. Bears are a better team right now. Jimmy Garoppolo aside, Bears are definitely the better team. Not just record-wise. Yeah, they have 2 more wins than the San Francisco 49ers, which isn't saying anything anymore. But they are a better team, especially playing at home in the cold. They have snow projected for that game. Bears at home in the snow, they're going to find a way to win at home. I'm taking the Chicago Bears to win this one. If you got Jordan Howard or even Cohen, they're not going to be passing the ball a heck of a lot in this game. Either one of those guys would be a great start.
Yeah, I'm with you as far as the home field advantage playing to the Bears in this game. It is going to be pretty cold. The 49ers are coming from the West Coast all the way over to the East Coast. There's a time change. You have to worry about that. And, Jimmy Garoppolo, I know people are really hyped about the guy because he came from the Patriots, but let's put that stigma aside. What do we really know about the guy? And also, how familiar is he with the 49ers offense? And finally, do you want him debuting against a team that has been one of the best against the pass all year long? You look at Chicago, they're number 12 this year on pass defense. I think it's going to be really difficult for Garoppolo to go in there in those elements on the road and win this game against that defense. So for that reason, I'm taking the Bears. I'm with you. I would pick any running back in this game. I think is going to get a lot of touches. I think both teams are going to look to run the ball a lot, considering the elements. I would tell you Bears D, really solid D to play.
Right.
And even 49ers D might be a pretty good one just because Trubisky might turn it over a couple times. And there might be some fumbles just because of, again, the elements. But other than that, I'd stay away from it for fantasy purposes. Really hard to predict. I'm going to take the Bears here, though.
You're taking the Bears. Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Next up, we got my team, my Baltimore Ravens, my 6-5 hungry for playoff Baltimore Ravens, taking on also the 6-5 Detroit Lions. As mentioned before, Ravens don't do a heck of a lot on offense, but their defense is absolutely outstanding. I think actually after last week's performance, we are now bumped up into second overall defense in the league. That's how good they are. They're going to make it it's going to be a wreck of a day for Matt Stafford and company. That defense does not give up a lot. Terrell Suggs, He's the guy that's in charge in that defense. He's 35 years old, but he plays like he's like 20. He looks absolutely amazing, still cutting through that line, doing his signature spin move, his swim move, getting through that line, getting to the quarterback, and causing turnovers. However, we can't get away from the big problem here. It's Joe Flacco and his inability to drive the ball downfield. I'd like to believe as a Ravens fan, trying to be as impartial as possible, but I'd like to believe that this is the game where he can finally start doing it, getting the ball down the field, using his running backs. At one point, this was during like halftime, like a couple plays before halftime, Ravens fans at home on that Monday Night Football field, they were booing the Ravens because they just got fed up and tired with all the dink and dunk passes. Flacco, I believe, tried to throw the ball deep. Like, when I say deep, like 35-plus yards. He tried that 4 times, and he was 0 for 4. Just could not connect with his receivers. That's a big problem. But what that does show is that the arm strength is still there. A lot of people questioned. All the ESPN pundits were questioning, maybe it's the arm strength. The arm strength is not the issue. It's the accuracy. And he's definitely on a decline since his Super Bowl years. And, yeah, looking back at it, we did pay him too much that Super Bowl year. We did exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do in stocks. You're supposed to buy low and sell high. We did the exact opposite. And but now we've made our bed. We're going to lay in it. And like I said, hopefully the Ravens can come out with their defense. I'm telling you straight up, if we win this game, it's not going to be our offense. I'm hoping and I'm praying that the Ravens defense can come out and hold up a defensive stance against this Detroit Lions team, which, by the way, let's go back to their last game on Thursday Night Football on Thanksgiving. What was their score anyway? 23-30. They put up a battle with the 92 Minnesota Vikings. So it may be another battle. I'm going to give the slight nod. They're both in the run for the playoffs. I give the slight nod to the Ravens for obvious reasons, and because, like I said, their defense is just as good as the Minnesota Vikings, if not better. So that's something they struggled mightily against on Thanksgiving Day, and I think it'll continue here. I'm taking the Ravens.
Well, this is a tough one because both of these teams are another 2 teams that I really just don't know what to expect. Specifically with the Ravens on offense, I really have a lot of questions about the Ravens offense, just as I do with the Detroit Lions with more of their defense. Week to week, you just never know what to expect from either unit. So the Ravens, they did get a win on primetime last week, and it was a solid win. I still think they have a lot of question marks in terms of offense. This is the week for them to rebound, though. The Detroit Lions defense has really shown no ability to stop anybody thus far this year. But I will say the Detroit Lions had a lot of problems being consistent on offense. But as we look at week 13? Yep. I mean, they're middle of the road. They're averaging they're not middle of the road. What am I saying here? They're actually number 5 in the league in offense. I think that they're going to be able to outscore the Ravens here. And, both of these teams' backs are against the wall. So it's going to be a real close one. This was another really tough one for me to pick because if the season ended today, the Ravens are in the playoffs. I didn't think that. Like, I would never have guessed that based on the Ravens season and reading your tweets specifically. But, Ravens need this win, no doubt, to stay in that wild card race. And the Lions really needed to get back into the wild card race. Yeah. I think the Lions will win this one on the back of Matt Stafford. I think that the X factor is going to be quarterback play. I think right now Stafford's just a little bit better than Flacco. So Ravens fans, don't hate me, but I'm taking the Lions here. And I think they're actually, they're underdogs here. So, again, might be a good game to put some money on. Okay.
And for the record, it doesn't matter how many times you pick against the Ravens. I will never hate you. So, next game, 7-4 Atlanta. Ooh, what a game! Actually, this may be the game of the week. I'm not sure. I haven't taken a look at the other matchups, but 7-4 Atlanta Falcons hosting the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings, both teams making a very, very strong push. Well, Vikings aren't really making much of a push. They're pretty much sealed. They're in the playoffs. Falcons, they're pushing. They're pushing. They got a lot of competition in the NFC this year. What I like about this Vikings team, quotes come to mind that many of us who went to college, we've heard these before. Like, here's a quote: "Always have a plan B." Here's another one: "Don't commit to anyone for over a week." No, it's not just college dating advice, folks. That's exactly how Mike Zimmer is handling this quarterback situation in Minnesota. And let's be honest, he's a genius because it's clearly working. He has not made any official statements. I don't know why. Despite Minnesota being on a 7-game win streak, no matter how many times Case Keenum leads them to victory, Mike Zimmer refuses to commit him for the season. Refuses to flat out come out and say, Case Keenum, he's our guy. If we lose, if we win, he's our guy this year. He hasn't said that once, which makes us think that he might be thinking about inserting Bridgewater in there at some point, which I don't understand that if that is the case. And I think what that does is by him not committing Case Keenum as his main guy, as saying, hey, I'm behind this guy 100%, it causes Case Keenum to kind of look over his shoulder now a little bit. You know, it's easy right now for me, it's easy to envision a scenario where this guy goes out there, plays 1 or 2 bad games, and everyone in Minnesota starts calling for Case Keenum's head. Hey, you don't believe me? Just look at what's happening to Alex Smith right now in Kansas City. That same thing. Everyone wants him outed as a quarterback, and they want someone else in there. But the fact remains, I have now picked against Minnesota twice, 2 weeks in a row to be fact. And based on how they've been playing lately, there won't be a third. I'm not picking against the Vikings this week. I'm taking the Vikings. Not to say anything that, not to say take anything away from the Atlanta Falcons, because obviously they're a good team. And they're probably going to give them a good show, too. It's going to be a gunslinger game. You're thinking it's all about defenses. Yeah, they both have pretty high-ranked defense, but it's going to be a gunslinger show. I just think the Minnesota Vikings can win that battle, even though they're playing away.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is game of the week. No doubt. And I got to say, Zimmer has done a great job in Minnesota dealing with all the QB controversy and turning that into a positive. I think Case Keenum has full control of that. I think he has full control of his own destiny in more ways than one. Yeah. Number one is I think he's the starter for the rest of this year unless he absolutely mails it in for a couple games. In that case, I see them maybe turning it over to Bridgewater. In addition, he's on a 1-year, $2.5 million deal right now,
which is nothing.
It's a bargain. I mean, it's a better bargain than that Andrew Luck rookie contract a couple of years ago. So I think Casey Keenum will also control his own destiny in the offseason. I think there's going to be a lot of teams, Jacksonville Jaguars included, that are going to be lining up to give this guy a truckload of cash to come over and play starting quarterback for him. Vikings defense, obviously one of the best units in football. However, I have to say the Falcons have really turned it around. A lot of people were doubting them. They need this win more than the Vikings, and they looked really good last week. They've reaffirmed my faith in them. They're playing at home. Historically, they're a good team at home. I really think they're going to win this game on the back of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, and to a lesser extent, Tevin Coleman. So I have the Falcons winning this one. I think it's going to be an exciting game, one of the best games of the week. It was a really tough one for me to pick one way or the other, but I have them winning at home. I would take the points, though. I know they're only 3-point favorites, but I would still take the points. I think the Falcons will win this one last minute. It's not going to be a big win for them, but it's still going to be a win, and it keeps them in the run for the division and then also the wild card. It's kind of weird in the NFC South right now. Like, they might have 3 teams go to the playoffs, which is like almost unheard of. So the Falcons need this win big time. I have them winning this one.
Okay, you got the Falcons. Next up is a game that I actually heard about this morning. I have a morning routine, as you could say. I take a shower and I and I eat my bowl of cereal or my bowl of oatmeal because I'm an old guy, and I'll watch NFL Network. And for whatever reason this morning at 5 a.m., they were hyping up this New England Patriots versus Buffalo Bills game. I think that they're seeing things here that aren't there at all. They're thinking this would be a good division rivalry game. New England's 9-2, Buffalo's 6-5. Buffalo's definitely fighting for a position in the playoffs. Sorry, NFL pundits. Nothing against NFL Network. I love their work. I love that channel. In fact, my TV's always tuned on that channel. But I think they got it completely wrong here. I will agree, the Bills played impressive last week in beating Kansas City. But this defense that Buffalo has is not good enough to beat Tom Brady, even if they're at home. I don't care. They don't look like they're good enough to overpower a Tom Brady killing machine, which is what Tom Brady is. I say look for another monster game from that Patriots offense. Gronk now being used more than ever this year. They're going to him early and often. That's been a key success for them. And I think, like I said, I don't see much of a battle here. I think Pats will continue to roll and dominate this division. I'm going to go ahead and say the Patriots win this one, despite them being away. They've won away before. It's not an issue with them. Hey, they went all the way to Mexico and won. Think they can't go to the Bills Stadium and win? I think they can. I got the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know why anybody would be hyping this game up. It's a tale of two franchises. The Patriots obviously have one of the best cultures in football when it comes to their franchise. Say what you will about them, but that organization has all their ducks in a row every single year. Whereas the Bills, it's just been dysfunction all year long. Disconnects between the coaching staff, the front office, the coaching staff, the players, the front office and the players. It's just this weird Jerry Springer-like atmosphere, and it's a darn shame because, at the beginning of the year, didn't think the Bills were a playoff team, but through probably, I would say, week 10, they looked like they could go 10-6, win the wild card, maybe make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. Then they got crazy, started Nathan Peterman, and, we all saw what happened.
Oh, my goodness.
So right here, this game, I don't think it's going to be a pretty one. I don't know that the Patriots will cover the 8.5-point spread, but I do think they win this one on the road. I don't think playing in 45-degree weather in Buffalo will bother them. I know a lot of people always point to Buffalo's home field advantage.
Yep.
Just don't see it being a factor here. I think Brandon Cooks is going to have a good game. Gronk, good game there. Tom Brady, if you have him, you definitely want to play him. Patriots D, I'd stay away from him. Same thing with the Bills D. And then Tyrod Taylor, always puts up points in fantasy. Other than that, I'd take the Patriots, man.
You got the Patriots. Okay. Man, some of our picks are really similar, and I think it'll stay that way looking at the rest of these matchups, to be honest with you, but let's go for it. Again, a game that I don't think is not going to be much of one. I don't have much to say about this one. The winless Cleveland Browns going into LA to take on the 5-6 Chargers. Chargers are absolutely rolling right now, dominating and continuing to play well on both sides of the ball. We saw the massacre they did to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. It wasn't even close. Rivers right now is coming off of one of his best games of the year, which isn't saying much because he hasn't had the greatest year, but to put up like 4 touchdowns last week on Thursday night, or on Thanksgiving rather, I think it's going to be it's going to continue here for sure when he's facing the Cleveland Browns defense. Watch out too for Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. They're going to have big days this coming Sunday. They're going to have big days playing against this Browns team. I think this is going to be an absolute blowout of a game. One of my slam dunk picks for sure. I'm taking the Chargers to win big. Like I said, that defense edge rush right now is one of the best in the league that San Diego has. But they're going to be running the ball a lot here. And Phillip Rivers, believe it or not, even in our 16-man league, was at one point available. So if you guys are in a smaller fantasy football league, chances are Phillip Rivers is still available. I think he's going to have a monster game. against these Browns. So go ahead and pick them up if you can. My pick is the Chargers. Alex?
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the Browns. They've committed to Deshaun Kaiser for the rest of the year. Deshaun Kaiser, as I called him on Twitter, the best tank commander that's ever been. And that's what the Browns are doing right now. They're tanking. I think they're going to go 0-16. I don't see a winnable game on the rest of their schedule. I'm really sorry, Browns fans. I think the future is bright for them. I think their front office does have some sort of vision, but this is not their year. So going on to the Chargers, I got to say, Phillip Rivers played one of the best games at quarterback I've ever seen. Posted 27 for 33, 434 yards, 3 TDs, and a 94 QBR. 100 is perfect.
Unbelievable.
Phillip Rivers played one of the best games of football at the quarterback positions I've ever seen. So I think they will continue this momentum. They're 14-point favorites here, which tells you how much Vegas is scared of this team to lay a 14-point line on them. I think Phillip Rivers, good play. Melvin Gordon, good play. Keenan Allen, great play. If you have him, you got to play Keenan Allen. He gets targets like you wouldn't believe. Hunter Henry, you name it. Travis Benjamin might be a good one in the flex. So I'd stay away from anybody on the Browns. I'm taking the Chargers. I think they have a shot to cover this spread. I normally don't say that with a 14-point spread, but I think they have a shot to cover it. So
you think they have a
Chargers
shot?
All the way. Yeah, okay. They got a shot.
Alrighty. So we are both also on the Chargers. Oh, man, this game. It sucks that this actually has to happen, but we got the 2-9 New York Giants going into Oakland to take on the 5-6 Raiders. Right now, Giants are, can we say they're done? They are toast. They're absolute toast. They're dead in the water. And they're facing an extremely long road trip going to the West Coast to play these guys. Usually not a great combination to travel that long of a distance, especially coming off of a loss. And to top that, like, what's this drama with Eli Manning getting benched for Geno Smith? Absolutely no good reason for doing so. And I got to admit, I'm not a person that cries easily. But seeing Eli Manning on TV yesterday, it kind of caught him off guard. You can tell when he wasn't ready. He wasn't even processing what's exactly happening to him. When the reporter asked him, Eli, how do you feel about you getting benched and possibly have already played your final snap in the NFL? You can tell he was not mentally, emotionally ready for that question. He almost lost it, man. It was tough for me to see him in that position. A guy that leads one of the current streaks, 210 straight games, consecutive games he's played in. That dude doesn't take any days off. Yeah, we might make a lot of internet memes about him, and yeah, the second half of his career has been really crappy, but I respect that so much. The fact that he's out there playing 210 consecutive games, and now they want to pull him for a healthy scratch. Now, nothing against Geno Smith, but I think that the PR team on his Giants squad is just handling this whole situation all wrong. You don't do that to a guy that led you to 2 Super Bowls. You don't do that to him. You got to treat him better than that. I thought that was so disrespectful what they did to him that way. But anyway, this is not a game of politics. The Raiders are going to be playing for the win. So are the Giants. Oakland has a lot of their own issues, even though they beat Denver last week. I think New York Giants defense will show up, and there's going to be a lot of emotion in this game because seeing some of the stuff posted on Twitter, a lot of Giants players are really ticked off about what's happening to their quarterback. They're going to put up a tough battle. This is going to be a battle. These players are not happy, but I still got Oakland winning this one. A lot of emotion in this game. Expect to see a couple interesting post-game pressers taking the Raiders.
So if you're on that 53-man roster of the Giants and you see them make Eli Manning inactive in week 13 of the NFL season, a guy who's been a starter since 2004, never missed a game, won 2 Super Bowls, say what you will about him. I know he's not the best quarterback, but I still think he's a Hall of Famer. I think history will be kind to Eli Manning. I think when we look back on his career, when it's over, we'll appreciate him a lot more than we maybe do now. I've always thought he was right up there with the elite. And he did it in the toughest market to play in, which is New York. So I don't know. I don't get it. I've read every justification out there why they would bench Eli Manning for Geno Smith.
Right.
And I just don't get it. I've heard people try to sell me on, well, they're trying to see if Geno Smith's a solution after Eli Manning leaves. Well, Eli Manning has talked about playing another 4 years. So I don't think they're going to keep Geno Smith on the roster for another 4 years. He's 27 years old. Don't get that one. And if you want to see if Geno Smith's a solution, there's about 2.5 years worth of tape with the New York Jets. You could probably just go to their complex right across the road, and they'd be happy to give you the tape and show you why he's not a franchise quarterback. It makes no sense. It's the wrong thing to do. I think the NFL should investigate teams like this. I'm not just saying the Giants. I'm talking about the Browns. I'm talking about the Bills to an extent. I'm talking about the Jets. And, look at these teams and say, are they really realistic? Are they tanking? Because this can ruin a league. The NFL, the biggest selling point on the NFL has always been the parity. The fact that every single team goes in every Sunday wanting to win. Nobody goes out there looking to tank. It ruined the NBA culture for a while. There's teams that have tanked for years in the NBA, blatantly, and it's turned off fans. And I worry that the NFL is going to allow the same culture here. So that's my rant on the Giants. I don't think there's any reason for benching Eli Manning. This is absolute season suicide for the Giants. They will not win another game all year long with Geno Smith or Webb at quarterback, period. Raiders are going to win this one just because, their coaching staff isn't a bunch of bumbling idiots. So I'm taking the Raiders here. They're going to cover the 8.5-point spread. Derek Carr is going to have a great game. They didn't bench him, for some inexplicable reason. I know the Raiders have their warts, but they are still in the playoff race. Absolutely. They definitely need this win. So I think they win, and I think they win big. And I feel bad for Giants players and fans. It's a bad week for Giants.
Yeah. And I do follow you, Alex, on Twitter, and I see some of the stuff you post. I'm not saying that you're a conspiracy theorist in any way, but you definitely have a strong opinion when it comes to teams potentially tanking games.
I probably go too far with that. I fully admit that.
So, it's a very real thing. It's not some alien UFO thing. It's a real thing. Teams tank. That's what they do as we get to this point in the season where they're like, all right, well, our season's pretty much done. Let's try to lose out and try to get the best possible pick and go from there. I agree. It does terrible things for the league. It makes games unwatchable, but it is what it is. Speaking of unwatchable games, we got the 8-3 LA Rams taking on the 5-6 Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are hosting this one. Actually, no, I lied. This is not going to be unwatchable. Cardinals are going to play this tough. They have to play this tough. This game right here is going to decide whether or not the Cardinals have a spot in the playoffs, whether or not they can make it. They won a really, really tight one last week against Jacksonville. So that gives me a little bit of a glimmer of hope that maybe they can win this one, playing at home again. However, and if that does happen, guys, Arizona Cardinals win, let's face it, across the board, this has all the makings of becoming your upset special for Week 13. That the Cardinals win and topple the Rams. But I'm sticking with the favorite here. I'm going to go with the Rams. Todd Gurley's going to have a decent game. Also, I would say, despite me having the Cardinals losing this game, any Arizona Cardinals running back that you want to start that is available, who's that one guy that did go to on third downs? The fast dude. What's his name?
Ellington.
He's been getting a lot of production in those third down plays. So, and he's available in a lot of leagues. So go ahead and add him too if you can. So, but I'm taking the LA Rams to win this one. Alex?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the LA Rams are going to win this one just on quarterback play alone. I think Jared Goff at this point in his career is better than Blaine Gabbert, and Blaine Gabbert's been having a pretty good run here with the Cardinals, so I'm not taking anything away from him. I just think Goff is having a better year. I think the Rams are going to be able to run the football a little bit more effectively, and the Cardinals kind of establish the run, have a more complete offense. And don't sleep on the Rams defense. They've made a lot of quarterbacks' lives hell this year towards the I would say the middle of the year on. They've really come together. So I got the Rams winning this one. Don't play Adrian Peterson if you have him. He's banged up. I think he's not going to be as much of a factor. I think Ellington's a really good play just because he gets a lot, especially in a PPR league. So it's good that you brought him up. And then on the Rams, Watkins, man, seems to be coming alive, seems to be developing that chemistry with Jared Goff. So might be available for you really cheap in a trade if you still got a trade going on in your league, or may even be on the waiver wire. So I would say Watkins, Jared Goff, obviously Todd Gurley if you have them. But I got the Rams here.
You got the Rams. Okay. We've got 3 more games to cover this week, guys. We have the 3 more games, and once we're done picking our games, you guys know the link to our Discord is down below. Go ahead and join. We're going to be taking call-ins once we're done picking these next 3 games. We got the 8-3. The battle of the 8-3s actually. The 8-3 Saints hosting the 8-3 Carolina Panthers. Man, oh man. This game right here decides the NFC South. Saints, they've already played the Panthers earlier this year, and the Saints who won that game. Carolina, we know how tough it is to play consecutive road games, and they're doing that here. They're coming off of a game where actually Josh McCown, of all people, carved up the Panthers defense. That can't be good either. Don't be surprised if at some point during this game, maybe it's before the game, or if it's during halftime, during like a halftime special, or maybe it's after the game. Don't be surprised if you see Sean Payton giving the guys at the Fox booth a hug. Why? Because this is the week where this game is televised on Fox. I'm sure you can see it on your screen. It says Sunday, 3:25 p.m., Fox. New Orleans, fun fact here, has been undefeated whenever Fox televises their games. They are 8-0 on Fox and 0-3 elsewhere. There hasn't been a run like this on Fox since probably the original airing of 24. All right. Although Carolina has one of the better defenses in the league, they can never seem to slow down this New Orleans passing attack and their rushing attack. Kamara having an absolute brilliant year this year. In the past 4 meetings, New Orleans has averaged 33.3 points against the Panthers. Heck, this game, Alvin Kamara might even get 33.3 points on his own. I'm just saying, Fox may want to consider rating this game TVMA based off of what I've seen from Kamara as of late. It's not going to be pretty. I'm taking the Saints to win at home. And Kamara is definitely the fantasy beast in this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Kamara and Ingram, they're the two-headed beast for the New Orleans Saints. They've been running the football very effectively all this year. Big difference from last year. And, even last week when they lost, they ran the football pretty effectively. I think that will continue against the Panthers. The pass game we know is there for the Saints, and the defense for the Saints this year has been a very good unit. As I said last week, these aren't your father's Saints. This is a new Saints team. It's a new generation, and it's kind of cool because it's like a rebuild on the fly. Like the Saints needed a defense that was young, invigorated, with some playmakers. They went out for 2 drafts. They went out and spent a lot of assets building up that defense. Got a couple of nice playmakers on offense. Look at them now. So I have them beating the Panthers here, who have been inconsistent all year. I think Cam Newton's going to struggle with the Saints defense. That offense has never really gotten going You look at the games where the Panthers have been good on offense, been against some really bad defenses, and they're on the road. I just don't see this one playing out well for the Panthers. I think this would be runner-up for game of the week, though, because there's so much on the line. I think whoever wins this game wins the NFC South, no doubt. But I do have the Saints here, and I do think they covered a 4.5-point spread. I'd play Mark Ingram, Drew Brees, Kamara.
The whole family.
Yeah, anybody on the Saints offense, I think they're due for a good game. They always play well at home. They always, they really gel at home on offense. And Panthers, I think Cam Newton's a good play. I think he'll put up some good points. McCaffrey, I think McCaffrey has really shown a lot over the last couple of weeks. And then Funchess is available in a lot of leagues. And
he's made a resurgence.
He's been putting up decent points. So if you're looking for like a flex guy that's a receiver, Funchess might be your play. But yeah, like I said, Saints winning at home.
There you go. And actually, if there was a case where Alvin Kamara's nieces and nephews step on the field, I'd say start them too in fantasy. All right, so we have the 7-4 Seattle Seahawks hosting on a Sunday night matchup the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles. This is going to be a big test for both teams. The one thing that really scares me about the Philadelphia Eagles is I have no idea how good they actually are. Yeah, they're definitely good. But the fact that they've only played 2 teams that currently have a winning record has me skewing my mindset a little bit about the team. It makes it very, very hard for me as a viewer to gauge how good they actually are. And if you want to go to those 2 games, where they're over 500, it was a win over Carolina and a loss to Kansas City. They were 1-1, okay, against teams that are over 500. Now, being the fact that this is a primetime game in Seattle, there's a 90% chance that something in this game will cause it to turn into an officiating circus. And there's going to be at least one penalty due to the fact that someone broke a rule that we didn't know existed. That's bound to happen in any primetime game in Seattle. It always happens. They're going to make up a rule on the fly and be like, oh, yeah, he violated that. Seattle has lost 2 straight at home. There's an old adage in the NFL, which still exists today. Defense always travels. The reason why they say that, if you don't know, if you've ever been to an NFL game, if the home team, when they're on offense, the stadium is super quiet. In fact, they put it up on a big screen. Quiet, men at work, or something along those lines. Well, guess what? It's also quiet for the defense they're playing against. Defenses travel very well. I think this Philadelphia Eagles defense is going to be a team that travels very well. I'm taking them in an upset. I guess you could call this an upset. I don't know what the line is on this one, but I'm taking the Eagles to win on the road, flying across the nation to play this game over Seattle. I'm taking the Eagles. I think they're the real deal. I know that I said I don't know how good they are, but I think they are the real deal. They're the best team. Quote me on that. They're 10-1. They are the best team in the NFL for a reason. Taking Eagles.
I think you make some good points about defense traveling well, and I got to say, I think this is the sword in the stone moment for one Carson Wentz. I think this is the moment where he can say, I've arrived. I'm an elite quarterback. My team is elite. We are contenders, not pretenders. People continue to point out the strength of schedule of the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't hold it against them. They don't make the schedule. And all you do as an NFL team is, what do? You look at who your next opponent is, whoever's put in front of you, and you try to beat them. I think the Seahawks are trending downward. I know I've received a lot of criticism around that thought process, but I think they rely way too much on Russell Wilson, who is an amazing player, MVP candidate, running around like a chicken with his head cut off every week, trying to run for yards. I mean, he's their leading rusher last time I checked. I mean, he's obviously a very good passer.
Right? You know why, right?
Because he's running for his life.
Yeah, exactly. It's not by choice.
It's not by choice. And I think that, they're relying on him too much. It's going to show at the end of the year. There's no way you do that for 16 weeks where you don't get a little bit run down. And I mean, Russell Wilson, amazing athlete, but he's also human. And the Eagles are not a good matchup for Russell Wilson to go against. A lot of people talk about Carson Wentz in the offense of Philadelphia. You got to remember, this is a team that's only allowing 65 rushing yards a game through 12 weeks of NFL play. Only 226 in the air, 17.4 points a game. I think is a lot to overcome for the Seahawks, considering all the injuries, all the inconsistencies, and an O-line that is absolutely porous. I think Russell Wilson's going to be running for his life. He's going to put up a good fight. I don't think Philadelphia covers the spread. It's a 6-point spread in the favor of the Eagles, so they are 6-point favorites going into this one. So I take the points, but I have the Eagles winning here. I do think anybody in the Eagles' pass game is a solid play. I'd stay away from their running backs. Seattle's still really good against the run, but I think Aguilar, Jeffrey, any of the Eagles' tight ends would be good plays in fantasy, as well as Carson Wentz. And then obviously on the Seahawks, the one guy you got to play if you have him, Russell Wilson. But I do have the Eagles winning here, not covering the spread, but getting the win.
Okay. We're both on the Eagles. Man, we didn't really disagree on much in Week 13. I just noticed that. And I don't think we'll disagree on this one either. We got the 9-2 Pittsburgh Steelers playoff hopeful team going into Cincinnati to take on the 5-6 Bengals. This game right here is going to decide the season for Bengals fans. They are still alive as it stands right now. Before the Week 13 games are played, they are still alive and in the playoff chase. But they really, really need to win this one. Pittsburgh is coming off, as we just said earlier in the stream, they're coming off of a very tight victory versus Green Bay on Sunday Night Football. And let me say, Pittsburgh's defense did not look very good that game. Because Brett Hundley, I don't know if it's because Brett Hundley's great or if the Pittsburgh defense wasn't great, but they were running some serious big-time plays on that Pittsburgh defense. But not everything is negative with the Steelers. They have now won 6 straight games and are tied with New England for the best record in the AFC. This season, Le'Veon leads the league in rushing yards, and shout out to him. I didn't think he could do it, and that's just a Ravens fan underestimating a Steelers fan. I promise you it'll probably happen again. Cincinnati has won 2 consecutive and seek to win a 3rd consecutive playing at home. But seek all they want. It's not going to happen. Le'Veon Bell is going to continue to roll. They're still going to start him. You're probably going to start seeing Pittsburgh bench Le'Veon Bell probably in Week 15, something like that, when they're like 2 weeks out from the playoffs. I don't think they're going to play him the entire way leading through the playoffs. They're probably going to bench him as like a healthy scratch to get him prepared for the playoffs. I'm taking Pittsburgh to win this one on Monday Night Football. Alex?
Yeah, this is another one. It's kind of like a slam dunk pick. You look at the Bengals, their wins this year. I mean, it's really a questionable team. They haven't won against a single good opponent. They won against the Browns. They beat the Bills in a nail biter. They beat the Colts, bad team. Broncos, bad team. Browns again, bad team. I don't see them, even at home, going in and beating the Steelers, especially after the Steelers walloped them 29-14 in Week 6. So I'm taking the Steelers here. If you're looking for a fantasy play, I think Joe Mixon, he's been good week to week. He's been a solid flex play. I think he'll still have a decent game. He seems to have kind of become the bell cow back of the Bengals. Bernard doesn't see the field much. Jeremy Hill certainly doesn't. So Mixon might be a good play. AJ Green, you got to play him if you have him. Dalton might be a good streaming play. I'd stay away from the Cincy D. If you're really desperate, Brandon LaFell is a good one. And then on the Steelers end, anybody on the Steelers offense, really good play. Smith-Schuster might be back this week. He's having a really good year.
I think he is back this week.
Yeah, and I mean, that guy, I think he's got star written all over them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, man, I got the Steelers winning this one, and I do think they cover that 5-point spread. I don't think this is going to be a real pretty one. Might be a lower scoring affair because both defenses are pretty good, but I still think the Steelers cover the spread and win.
Okay. Well, that does it for our Week 13 picks. It's at this point where we're going to start going to the telephones. If you guys want to call in, if you have any questions, any comments, whether it's for me, it's for Alex, or for the both of us, anything, you can call in. There's a lobby set up in our Discord lobby called NTL Show Call-ins. All you got to do is hop in there, and we'll pull you in one by one. Speaking of the NTL Show Call-ins, we've got Aid Munchies. Aid Munchies calling in. What's going on, Aid Munchies?
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
You have a good, doing pretty well, man. Doing pretty well. I'm thoroughly surprised that Week 12 has been played. If you want to look at Week 1 through 16 as 4 quarters of football, we've already played 3 quarters of football. We're in the final quarter now. So kind of depressing. Kind of depressing because it means the season's coming to an end. But at the same time, I mean, we've had a pretty good show this year. But anyway, that I don't want to detract from anything you have to say. Do you have a comment or question for us?
I have 2 things to say.
Okay.
One about the Cowboys. When Zeke's not there, they don't win. I mean, here's some stats for Dak Prescott when Zeke was playing. He had 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, averaging a 102.5 QBR. And without Zeke, 0 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, averaging a 57.7 QBR.
Yeah, that team's a different animal without him, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And one more thing is about Zimmer not committing to Case Keenum. I think that it's more psychological than anything. I think he's trying to get into, other teams' heads. Who are they going to start? Are they going to start Keenum? Or are they going to start Bridgewater? It's always in the team's back of their minds. So I think he's a genius on that part.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah.
By not committing to him?
I'm going to agree with him. I think it's psychological in 2 ways. I think, opponents have a hard time preparing for whoever's going to play. I think it's got to be on the mind of whoever's the starter at that point. In sales, they always talk about you're only as good as your last month, right?
Yep.
And here it's the same thing. You're only as good as your last week. And here's a guy who was our starter who could replace you at any time. The Giants did it to some great success in the early 90s with Phil Simms, Hostetler, and some other quarterbacks. So I think Aid Munchies is spot on. It's a great power play by Mike Zimmer. Very good coach. Very underrated.
For sure. For sure. Thanks for calling in, Aid Munchies.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
And thanks for those thumbnails, Aid Munchies.
Yeah, shout out to Aid Munchies, by the way. He's been creating the thumbnails for our SoundCloud and YouTube, so appreciate him for that. Next up, we have Bears Hater calling in. What's going on, Bears Hater? Hello?
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good.
What do you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, but do you think the Cowboys have a chance to beat the Redskins on Thursday night?
Of course. I mean, any NFL matchup, even the Browns this week, they have a chance to beat. Here's the thing about the NFL, right? It's 52 professional players, 53 professional NFL players facing 53 professional NFL players. That's why the phrase any given Sunday comes about. Yeah, is it possible? Yeah. Do I see it happening? No. That's just my opinion. I don't see the Cowboys winning.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. You see this pig right here? This has a better chance of flying than the Cowboys do of winning. I'm sorry.
There you go.
If you're a Cowboys fan, it ain't happening.
There you have it. There you have it. I hope that answers your question.
No Sean Lee.
Especially if what?
No Sean Lee.
Yeah, especially without them having their defensive leader, Sean Lee, out there. Great point. Great point.
That's a huge myth for them right now. I mean, it's impossible to fill those shoes. They don't have a guy who can slide in and fill Sean Lee's shoes. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, They don't. That's their emotional leader on that Cowboys defense, and yeah, they don't have him. Anything else you want to say, Bears hater?
Well, the only way I can see us winning this game is if our D line can create some turnovers and get pressure to Kirk Cousins. That's the only way I can see them winning this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I don't mean to rain on your parade, but a defense that hasn't produced much of a pass rush all year, I don't see finding that in Week 13, not having that in the previous 12. That seems a little bit far-fetched to me, but hey, I've seen crazier things happen in the NFL.
The Redskins' O-line has been pretty banged up this year.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just, I actually had a thought this, like, what if they kept Tony Romo? Do you think they'd be in the same predicament they are right now? Probably not, but, they chose to go with Dak Prescott, and with that, you take what comes with it, which is it's a young, inexperienced quarterback who you can't put the game on his shoulders and tell him, go out and win it. You just can't do it right now.
Exactly.
Romo and Prescott are two different quarterbacks. Romo is more of a gunslinger, and Dak is more of like a game manager.
Yeah, but I guess you could say Dak can be a gunslinger. We've seen him play that gunslinger side, and he's done quite well at it. But again, he's had Ezekiel Elliott by his side. He's the lone ranger out there on that Cowboys offense. He's clearly lost it. Bears hater, thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and I hope I'm wrong for all the Cowboys fans out there. I hope I'm wrong. So don't hate me. Don't send me hate DMs. Like, right. I really do hope I'm wrong, but I just it stinks, man. They built their team around running, and they don't have a running back now. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. The NFL really did pull a number on them. Shout out to Goodell, as Alex does. Hey, great job, Goodell. Great job. Shout out to the NFL on that one. They did a great job doing that one with the pulling the 6-game suspension at the end of the year. But anyway, thank you so much to everyone who came through on this podcast. We will catch you here next week for Week 14, believe it or not, Week 14 edition of the NFL Talk Live podcast. I am your host, Reigning Ravens 1, being joined by Alex, aka PurpleSwordfish, and we will see you next week. Thank you for everything. See ya.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk Live with Reigning Ravens 1 and Alex, aka PurpleSwordfish, streaming weekly on the YouTube channel Reigning Ravens 1 with all the audio. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of NFL Talk Live with Reigning Ravens 1 and Alex, aka PurpleSwordfish, streaming weekly on the YouTube channel Reigning Ravens 1 with all the audio archives on SoundCloud. Follow Reigning Ravens 1 on Twitter at Reigning Ravens 1 and follow Alex on Twitter at Swordfish Show. If you'd like to be part of the live call-in on the next episode, make sure to join the Discord server. This podcast is sponsored by Jerky XP. Save money on your order at the checkout by using the code RR1. We'll catch you next time on NFL Talk Live.